This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today I'm going to read a part of the book that I'm writing on emotional intelligence, and pull it apart a little bit for us, and give you my thoughts. I suppose it really comes down to this idea of looking at emotional intelligence, how we may see it collectively as a society, and then how we can truly see it in order to develop our emotional intelligence. So, in the mind part, the book's broke up into three parts, which is movement, mindset, and nutrition, so to speak. I have Nick Shaw from Renaissance Periodization contributing on the nutrition part, but this goes on to. I'm trying to give people a bit of a breakdown to understand why it's so crucial to not just look after ourselves, but to actually understand ourselves. And so this paragraph is simply taken from one of those chapters. When we suppress some emotions, we learn to suppress all emotions. Emotions are normal and to be understood, not ignored. We aren't able to become emotionally intelligent if we continue to ignore, shun, or shame away our emotions. One of the key things of mastering our mind is mastering our understanding of what our emotions are pointing towards and accepting the wide spectrum of emotions that we can experience. Intelligence comes from the Latin word, I'm going to pronounce this as best I can, intelligere, which means to understand. People can often get confused with emotional intelligence and think that it means to understand and read other people. Although this may be a factor in emotional intelligence, it is shallow in its description. Emotional intelligence is to understand self. From there, we can start to truly understand others. We can only meet someone as deep as we have met ourselves. Therefore, we can only meet somebody at the level that we have literally met ourselves at in relation to our emotional understanding, our emotional intelligence. We are not able to understand someone else's subjective experience if we have suppressed our own emotions and allowed our thoughts to control us. We must first seek to understand self, and along that journey, we will start to truly understand those around us. I had a metaphor that came to me when I was taking PD out to the toilet around emotions. And it left me. I can't actually remember for the second. Hopefully it comes back up again, because it was the most blatantly obvious way to explain emotions. And what I mean by that is that our ability that we try to avoid the so-called negative and bad emotions. The challenge of that is that we don't just switch off the bad emotions, we switch off all emotions. And so we become void of emotion. Right? Keep in mind, emotion is, E is just energy. Energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion through the body. It's a kinesthetic feeling. And so this interesting thing is that when we actually, stop ourselves from getting hurt, we also stop ourselves from loving. When we stop ourselves from feeling sad, we stop ourselves from feeling joy. Right? It's a protective mechanism, but we can't just switch off one side. We have to switch all of them off. And so this is where we get caught up, and where in that space we get sad about being sad. It's a state about a state, right? It's the same as being joyful about being joyful. If you've ever experienced it, like where you're sort of sitting there one day and you're having a laugh with some friends, maybe it's a beautiful spring afternoon or a summer afternoon, and maybe it's winter if you prefer that. And it's sort of like you're sitting there and you've had a laugh and you sit back and you're like, fuck, this is really nice. It's like, that makes me so happy about how happy I am with these people, as an example. That's metastating, and being sad about being sad is metastating. But the difficult thing is that when we actually try and protect ourselves and shut ourselves off from emotion, and then we try to understand other people, but we're void of emotion. So how can we truly understand other people when we ourselves don't understand our own subjective experience, our own emotions? And so the interesting thing around this is that we don't get to switch just the so-called negative ones off. And the negative ones aren't even negative in the sense of looking at it like it's bad. Fear, anxiousness, sadness, all of that is literally pointing at something. Anger, it's pointing at something. It's giving us information. It's informing us about information outside of the body, and whether that's potentially going to be a good or bad or favorable or unfavorable experience. And so when we simply ignore that, we put ourselves in more danger. Trying to protect ourselves, we put ourselves in more danger by not truly understanding what our anxiousness is pointing at, right? Because the thing about anxiousness is that it actually points at our potential. We won't get anxious about something that couldn't happen, right? And what that means is that when we see our potential, and it might be a vulnerable part of us, we get anxious, and then we start to protect that anxiousness rather than exploring it. When we protect it, we become a victim to it. And this is a really dangerous place to be. Now, this is not to say that anxiety is a victim place and you shouldn't live there. That's a very different conversation. What it is saying is that anxiousness within the body, that experience, that energy in motion, is giving us information about something outside. Now, what's really bad is when we get anxious about potentially getting anxious. Now, this is where we start metastating anxiousness, and it turns into anxiety, right? And then it just has us, but it's our thoughts about our thoughts, or it's our state about our state. It's not actually about the external thing. And the interesting thing about anxiousness is that it's to do with the future. It's not to do with the past. People go, oh, but it's about the past. It's like, it's about the past, but it's being projected into the future, right? It's really interesting that that's where anxiousness is really about. It's not about this present moment, right here, right now. And so the key thing looking at this, and the same for anger, is that these so-called negative emotions have an important utility to it. And you're actually a successor of anger. Somebody down your bloodline had to use anger, like putting the fucking money on it, to be able to still survive. It was going to be a life or death battle. At some point, they use that. Now, we live in a different world, I get that. But the thing about it is that us humans still have those emotions for a reason. And so anger is going to be really useful to just about every single one of us at some point in our life. The thing is that when we identify as I am angry or I am anxious, we're actually losing our identity as a human being, and we're starting to identify as the emotion. And so therefore, we will play that emotion out. We will become that emotion, as opposed to being a human experiencing that emotion, which is a completely different way to view the situation. We're experiencing happiness. We're experiencing fear. We're experiencing anger. And when we can do that, we've now become non-attached to being that emotion. And we let the emotion and see the energy for what it is, because that's what anger is. It's just energy. And we can recognize what it's pointing towards. And then we can make a choice. And that's the power. That's where emotions don't have us. And it can take work, yes, but anything that's worth doing does. But on that note, team, I am out. Thank you very much for tuning into this podcast. And if you found this beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you haven't already, then jump on Facebook, search Mood Prep Online, join the group, join the conversation there. I'd love to see you in there. Otherwise, that's it. I'm out. Until tomorrow. Peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
Happiness to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbright.